Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where OP has to wear a hot dog costume because her mom is a total Karen. Am I the jerk for telling my mom it wasn't cute or funny to dress me as a hot dog instead of a princess? So there's this new Target commercial going around where a girl dresses as a hot dog, and it came on while my family was watching a scary movie. I, 20 female, am home from college for the weekend, and I brought my boyfriend, and my mother, who's 57, decided it would be hilarious to mention that she'd made me a hot dog costume as a kid, except the way she told the story, it was my request. She said that all the girls wanted to be Disney princesses, but I had asked to be a hot dog, so she had gone out of her way to make me that costume. This is not what happened, and I said as much. What actually happened is that I wanted to be Snow White, and I had told everyone, including the teachers, that I was going to be Snow White. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, to the point where I would actually get invested in doing chores because I was cleaning up, just like Snow White. My dad and I would watch that movie all the time, and I was very excited to be Snow White for Halloween, especially because my ballet studio was doing a special princess dance for Halloween, and we had all signed up for special princess slots, and I'd shown up early with my dad the week before so I could get to be Snow White. My mother decided that she wanted to be quirky and that Snow White was a bad role model after I got in trouble for trying to cook dinner for my family. I was about 8, and I tried to make hot dogs, like how she made food for the dwarves in the movie, and I made a mess instead. My mom surprised me on the day of with this crappy hot dog suit and told me if I didn't wear it, she'd never let me watch Snow White again. She took a million pictures, the other girls teased me for months, and it was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. I told the real story, and I mentioned that I got through the day by pretending that she was the evil queen making me dress in rags, but the rags happened to be a garbage meat costume. She got really quiet after that, and after we left, my brother says she was crying and looking at the pictures from that Halloween. I didn't want to make my mom cry, but it's a bad memory for me, and it felt like she was trying to humiliate me all over again in front of my boyfriend. Wow, what a jerk move by your mom. And you were 8? I'm glad you told the truth and stood up for yourself. I hope she learns. What a jerk. I'm sorry that happened. Not the jerk. She clearly had a different perspective and you set her straight. Just because someone cries doesn't mean that they're the victim in this, especially if the truth is that not only did you not want to wear the hot dog costume, but she threatened you with your favorite movie instead. This is just weird. I'd never force my kid to wear a costume they didn't want to. That's such a weird thing to do. OP. She hated Snow White and Cinderella and Aurora. She was kind of okay with Belle, but she really pushed Mulan and Merida on me. Merida? My age is probably showing, but I don't remember that one. But those weren't the ones that I was interested in. She generally hated everything I liked and was really into the whole Cinderella ate my daughter thing. She wanted us to be allies against the other moms of the town we lived in, and I just wanted her to be like the other moms, honestly, because they were nicer. You're the jerk. I'm so glad that I have a normal family that laughs about this kind of stuff. Anyone with a decent sense of humor would laugh at this. Have you ever seen A Christmas Story? The mom makes Ralphie wear an embarrassing pink bunny costume on Christmas morning, and it's hilarious. The problem with so many people these days is that you're unable to laugh at things, including yourself. You're too uptight, get offended too easily, and take everything too seriously. Loosen up and learn to enjoy life a bit. And don't take advice from all these bitter people telling you how bad your mom was for the hot dog costume. Just be glad you had/have a mom who obviously loves you. When you go through life harboring resentment over mommy getting you a hot dog costume instead of a Disney princess costume, you're gonna have a bad time. Edit. Wow, I knew I'd get downvoted to heck. That's what happens when you're a happy person who has common sense. If I wanted upvotes, I would have said your mom was a real jerk and you need to go no contact with her. You people have no hope. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mom? Please let us know. Definitely mom. Now, if it had been a hamburger costume, that would have been totally different. My husband's family keeps referring to me as his best friend. What does this mean? My husband, Robbie, who's 26, and I, 26 female, got married earlier this year. It was a beautiful day, and I felt so much love and support from both sides of our family. 2 months after our wedding, we celebrated my birthday at my in-laws' house. It was nothing major, just a dinner and a night together with me, my husband, his mom, and his dad and his sister. This is the first night I noticed them referring to me as Robbie's best friend. After my birthday dinner, we were all sitting together in the living room, just chatting and having some drinks. That's when my sister-in-law got a phone call from a good friend of hers. When she answered the phone and her friend asked what she was doing, She replied that it was her brother's best friend's birthday. I had never heard anyone refer to me as Robbie's best friend. I'm his wife, and before that, we were engaged for 2 years. Hearing my sister-in-law refer to me like that confused me greatly. I always refer to her as my sister-in-law, and I would expect her to do the same. Or maybe even as Robbie's wife, but certainly not his best friend. After my sister-in-law hung up her phone, I asked her why she referred to me that way. She didn't seem at all concerned. She just said, "Well, you are friends, and that's what Mom and Dad call you," referring to my in-laws. My sister-in-law and I are by no means very close, but we are nice to each other and we have never had any fights. We just don't hang out outside of family functions because our personalities are pretty different. She's never made it seem like she was annoyed or mad at me. I decided to let it go that night, even though it was weird. But then it all happened again a few days ago, which is why I'm writing this post. My mother-in-law and I both work in the same industry doing similar jobs, but at different companies in the area. Sometimes our companies collaborate when we have clients who switch over. This week, we had that happen, and I had to pay a visit to my mother-in-law's office to help a client transition. My mother-in-law was in the office, so I stopped by to say hi. While I was there, she introduced me to her colleague, and once again, I was perplexed by what she said. She said, "This is my son's best friend." As I was shaking hands with the colleague, I paused and awkwardly said, "I'm his wife." The colleague looked confused, but my mother-in-law continued to smile and didn't even address it. Once we were alone, I asked my mother-in-law why she referred to me like that. Just like my sister-in-law, she didn't seem to act weird at all and said the same thing. "Well, you are best friends." The only thing that I can think to explain this is that in my vows to Robbie, I promised to continue being his best friend. Nobody acted like this was odd or special, and I feel like it's a pretty common thing to put in vows. So I'm not sure why Robbie's family seems to have clung to this, unless it has nothing to do with everything. I've spoken to Robbie about this too, and he's also perplexed by it. He asked his parents privately about it, and they gave him the same answer they've been giving me. It all just feels like some sort of bullying to me, but I've never felt a sense of this from them before. Are they calling me his best friend because they don't like the fact I'm his wife? Or is it some inside joke they've been in on without me? I'm not sure what to do or make of it, especially because the in-laws are acting like it's not an issue when I bring it up. Yes, I am Robbie's best friend, but I'm also his life partner and their daughter-in-law and sister-in-law. I don't know what to do. Any input would be welcome. How about just being straightforward with them? Yes, Robbie and I are best friends, but now that we're married, I would prefer that you refer to me as his wife, as I treasure our relationship. Thank you. And after that, continue to correct them if they keep saying best friends again. Maybe at the next family gathering, present a united front. Both husband and wife ask parents and sister-in-law to address the wife as Robbie's wife. Honestly, I think they're mocking you for your vows. That's the only explanation I can reasonably come up with. My mother-in-law used to call me my husband's friend too, when we were actually engaged, and she did it on purpose to belittle my importance in his life. Not saying this is what you're dealing with. It may be innocent, but it may be not. I would sit them down for dinner, be friendly but firm that you don't appreciate being introduced as your husband's best friend when you're actually his wife. Whether they're trying to or not, it is disrespectful. If you do this, you need your husband to also speak up about it. Hopefully it can be solved with a face-to-face confrontation. I'm 42 female. My boyfriend, who's 44, is upset that I've purchased a new dress for my work dinner. My boyfriend and I are having a disagreement about my work conference. We've been dating for about a year now. I have a work conference coming up in my local area. I started this job a few months ago, so this is my first time attending this conference. However, in my career field, I've been attending conferences for over a decade that involves a dinner on the last night. I asked my manager if we were allowed a +1 to the dinner, and she said no. This is only for the company employees. My manager mentioned that this will be a black tie event. I have a lot of beautiful dresses in my closet, some I've never worn. However, I don't have any floor-length gowns. I told my boyfriend I was going to Macy's to buy a new dress, and he said I should wear something in my closet. I explained that I needed a new dress due to the dress code, and that I'm excited to buy a new dress and get glammed for a night. I very rarely get to get glammed up. He was upset and said he didn't understand why I had to buy a new dress. He told me he would talk to me later and got off our FaceTime call. I went to the mall and saw several beautiful dresses in my price range of about $150. I texted my boyfriend and told him most of the dresses were 30% off and I could probably find a great dress for under $100. I took a few pictures of dresses I saw to get his opinion, and he said he does not want to be a part of this process at all. I texted him back and told him that I understand and I would no longer involve him in this. The dress I picked is navy blue. I'm completely covered. I'm respectful of the dress I picked out and the fact that I'm in a relationship. About a week later, we talked about this subject again and he was even more upset. He said he didn't understand why I wanted a new dress. I told him that when we met last year, he bought a brand new suit for his office Christmas party that he did not invite me to. He said that's different because a +1 was allowed, but I shouldn't buy a new dress and get glammed up if my significant other can't be there. Anyway, as I tried to defend my choice and point out that I am allowed to buy new clothes and get glammed up, he got upset again and told me he would talk to me the next day. Before he hung up, he asked me if I'm a leader or a follower. A few days later, he said that he thought I was looking for attention. I was honestly hurt and shocked by this. I'm dressing for the occasion and want to feel pretty for a night. I told him at our ages, I will not have someone policing my clothing and what I buy. I dress modestly all of the time. I'm mostly in jeans and t-shirts, and he tells me to dress up more often. He even asked me why I don't get a bit more dressed up to go to Target and the grocery store. I told him I like to be comfortable. We get to wear jeans in the office, so the only time I really get to dress up is dates with him and church. How should we settle this? Come to a compromise and move forward in a healthy way. Update. I just got home from breaking up with him. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. I cried as I drove to his house and all the way back. I'm going to sleep. I blocked him from my phone and all social media accounts. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice. Good night. Final update. Someone asked me about the breakup, so here it is. I walked into his house with the few clothing items he had at my house. When he saw the clothes, he said, "Wow, I thought you were coming over to talk, but you're coming over to break up with me?" I was already crying when I walked through the door. I was trying to compose myself. I told him that no matter what I do, it never seems good enough. I mentioned how I'm always so supportive of him and I constantly am trying to meet his needs, his love languages, his way of thinking, etc. He cut me off and said, "You're breaking up with me, so let's stop this conversation." In my head, I said, "Okay," but the words didn't come out of my mouth. He then said, "All of this over a dress that you didn't need and still want to wear. And I'm glad I didn't marry you because you always run away when I have an opinion." He also said, "Everybody has different opinions, but communication is key, not running away." Inside, I secretly hoped he would see my tears and say to himself, "Wow, I'm being so stupid right now. I'm losing the love of my life over a dress." But he doubled down. He looked in the bag of stuff I was returning and said, "Well, okay then." I looked at him for a second, then went ahead and walked out of the door. He texted me 10 minutes later and said, "Okay, I will give you what you want, sweetie. I hope all the best for you and your daughter. Let her know that I love her." I didn't reply, and that's when I blocked him. When I walked in the door, my daughter said, "Mom, have you been crying?" I said yes and told her that I would go to sleep now. She asked me what happened, and I told her I broke up with him. She said she would cheer me up by showing me some of her favorite YouTube videos, and she gave me a hug. So at 3 a.m., the time I'm typing this, my daughter and my puppy are asleep next to me. I feel deep sadness and a bit of relief. I no longer have to walk on eggshells anymore or explain myself to my boyfriend, but I loved him very much. I know all of the good times are going to play in my head for a while. I'm going to think of him every day. I'm going to miss him. He's the first relationship I've had in the last 6 or 7 years. We cooked together, laughed together, sang together, watched movies, had dinner and movie dates. But he also tried to control who I talked to, who I hung out with, what I was eating, what I was wearing. He was critical of me, ignored me when he was angry, talked over me when I tried to explain my point of view. He knew I was kind when he met me, but he was trying to get me to not be so kind to other people because it didn't make him feel special if I did it for others the same things I did for him. He asked me how he is more special or set apart from other people. When we met, I was around 150 pounds. I got back down to my original weight of around 140, and he told me I needed to put the weight back on. That part I don't understand. When we would be having a regular conversation, he would start lecturing me. He would ask what I ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When I would answer, he would start saying I needed to be more disciplined. When I would take a nap on the weekends, he would say I'm not being productive. If I didn't reply to his text quick enough, he would be upset and ask why I didn't have my phone near me. He said I should take my phone from room to room in case he urgently needs me. When I would FaceTime him before bed in my comfy PJs, he would ask me why I didn't wear prettier PJs to bed. Honestly, guys, I'm just exhausted. I didn't sleep well, and I mostly cried all night. I'm a mess this morning, but I'm working from home, so that's a plus. I know this will get better with time. I'm not sure why I put up with this for so long. Relationships are complicated. There's so much good and a bit of bad, and I just didn't know the right time to exit. When I'm asking Reddit for advice and over 1,000 comments see the red flag behavior when I've only shared a really small piece of my relationship was a wake-up call. So thank you for that. I'm 41, and the way I would handle this is by losing his number. He sounds like a huge baby, and I don't have time to manage other people's feelings. The fact that he keeps ending the conversation abruptly is manipulative. Why is the bar so low, OP? Why do you lessen yourself, make yourself smaller and compliant for this controlling jerk? Not only will he be like this forever, he will get worse and worse over the years until you're tying yourself in knots to placate him. You will be anxious and diminished. He sounds awful. You're a successful, financially independent woman who he should feel lucky to have, but he doesn't. Get some self-respect and dump him. Am I the jerk for blaming my dad and stepmother for my step-siblings thinking they would get a grandchild inheritance? My dad and stepmom got married when I, 17 female, was 7, and my brother, who's 19, was 9. My stepmother had 2 kids of her own who were 2 and 4 at the time. Our other parents are passed, their dad and my mom. Their dad passed while my stepmother was pregnant. My mom passed 19 months before my dad remarried. The only extended family my brother and I had was our mom's side, and when dad remarried, he insisted my step-siblings had to be included or they couldn't see us. Grandparents' rights were not available at the time, so my grandparents agreed, but they made it clear to dad they were only including our step-siblings because they loved us and wanted to see us. So whenever we saw our grandparents, my step-siblings did, and they grew really attached despite my grandparents never feeling any different. My step-siblings were a way to see my brother and me, not more grandkids or family in any way to my grandparents. It was the same for the rest of my extended family. They were treated fine, but they were never loved or wanted. Grandpa passed in 2020, and Grandma passed a month ago. Grandpa's funeral was done over Zoom, but Grandma's wasn't. My stepmother tried to send my step-siblings up to the grandkids section at the funeral, but an aunt and uncle stepped in and said it was only for grandkids. After the non-religious service, each grandkid got our grandkid inheritance, which was a lovingly made memory book that our grandparents did for us and had entries up until the day before Grandma passed. My step-siblings got nothing. This devastated them, and there has been an atmosphere ever since. My dad and stepmother are furious and went crazy on my aunts and uncles about letting it happen. Then my dad told me I needed to show some sibling love and loyalty and take a stand against my extended family, but I refused. My dad told me that wasn't okay and that I should not be so selfish. My stepmother said I owed it to my step-siblings. I told them none of this was my fault and I would not turn away from my family over it. They said I was choosing my extended family. I told them they are my family. I will not just push them away. They said it was cruel to let that happen. I said it was their, dad and stepmother's fault in the first place. I told my stepmother she knew my grandparents only included her kids because they wanted to see me and my brother, and that dad had made them do it. I said they should never have let the kids believe they were grandkids to my grandparents. They were the cruel ones, knowing my family had never loved the kids. And I said I would not stand against my family over this. They flipped over me blaming them, and they said my brother and I lacked empathy and compassion like our extended family did. Am I the jerk? Info. The inheritance is a memory book? That's very sweet and sentimental, and unlike money, it can't just be divided or shared. How are you being selfish? How are you supposed to take a stand? Against whom and how? For what? Something sentimental your grandparents made for you? I'm so confused. OP. I'm supposed to cut off my extended family because they knew my step-siblings wouldn't get anything and still passed out the inheritance in front of them. Also for refusing to let my step-siblings sit with the grandkids at the funeral. And for not loving my step-siblings and the time they had to be included in order to see me and my brother. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter she should have expected to see me less when she and her dad got my custody reduced? I have a daughter who's 15 with my ex-fiance. He's always had primary physical custody. I had weekends until she was in high school, then a week every month, but she usually went home early because she hated sharing a room, but we shared legal custody. When she was 2, I married my husband. He has a son 2 years older than her and a daughter the same age as her. We have 2 more sons and a daughter together. The only thing her dad and I always disagreed on was school. He wanted private schools for her, but I wanted her to be at the same school as her siblings, especially because she only got to see them at home at most 1 week out of the month. She went to public school until 4th grade, then for 5th, he told me either I agreed to private school for her or he'll take me to court for reduced custody and child support. I gave in and allowed her to go to private school even though her siblings weren't able to attend. 2 years ago, he told me he planned to send her to boarding school for high school. I refused. At that point, we were lucky if she spent a weekend a month with us, and it was obvious her dad was telling her she doesn't need to care about her family or spend time with us or talk to us. My daughter said she wanted to go, and a few weeks later I was notified that he was taking me to court to take away my legal custody. After a year of fighting, the judge sided with my ex, and I was forced to let my daughter go to boarding school. She's home for a week for Thanksgiving. I get her for the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. She has a 2-week Christmas break. I get her on Christmas Eve and maybe one other day during her break. I don't see her for spring break, and for her 8-week summer vacation, I'm supposed to get her for a week. The school is 8 hours away, but there's a lot of international travel involved. Last year, she only spent 6 weeks abroad. This year will be 12 weeks. When they're not traveling, parents are allowing to visit either every weekend or every other weekend. My daughter called me the other day to tell me that her dad's wife will fly out twice a month to visit and take her for a girls' day, and she sees her dad almost every weekend and even sometimes during the week. But the only time she sees me is when she flies back and makes the time. I told her I don't know what she expected when she worked with her dad to get my custody reduced, but I won't be flying twice a month or wasting an entire day to drive there just to compete with her dad's wife. Now she's refusing to talk to me, and my ex and his wife are calling me spiteful and a horrible parent. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter she should have expected not to see me when she got my custody reduced? You're the jerk. You're the parent, and in your post, I see zero description of how you made any effort to be involved as a parent should be in their kid's life. You're the jerk. And if my mom remarried someone with 2 kids and proceeded to have 3 more, I wouldn't want to live in that house either, so I can't really blame your daughter. She must feel like you have absolutely no time for her and will make no real effort. Everyone sucks here except the daughter. Mostly you, though. I'm giving your ex and his wife this score because they shouldn't be bad-mouthing you. When it comes to you, it sounds like your daughter got some amazing opportunities in her life when it came to education. You should be happy for that. Instead, you're acting angry and spiteful. Now you have several other kids, so yes, I understand you can't fly every other weekend, but that doesn't mean you should put in zero effort. You could have explained your financial situation and time constraints and suggested you come and visit once every 3 months. But no, you took zero responsibility and then decided to blame the situation with your ex on the kid. Good thing your ex has money, because with a mom like you, she'll definitely need it for therapy. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my coworkers take over the fish tank my employer allows me to keep in the office? I've been allowed by my employer to keep a small aquarium at my desk, which is something I'm really passionate about. I'm a bit of a fish enthusiast, and I enjoy maintaining the tank, ensuring the fish are happy and the environment is balanced. It's a small, peaceful hobby that brightens my workday and has become a conversation starter in the office. Recently, a few of my coworkers came up with the idea of turning my tank into a sort of office fish project. They want to add new fish to the tank and have everyone vote on which species we should get. Their suggestions range from goldfish to guppies and even more exotic ones like cichlids, which is clearly impractical for a tank of this size. They think it's a fun, team-building exercise and that we could all pitch in for the maintenance. Here's the problem. The tank is mine. It's allowed by the company specifically for me to manage, and I've put a lot of care into creating a balanced, healthy environment for the fish that I already have. Most of the species they're suggesting don't belong together or require different care than what I've set up. For example, goldfish are cold water fish, while my current tank is tropical. Plus, the idea that everyone in the office would help take care of it is unrealistic. Maintaining a tank properly requires more knowledge than just throwing some food in once a day. I've explained my concerns, but they're brushing it off, saying I'm being overly protective and that I'm taking this too seriously. They think it's just a fun little project, but it's more than that to me. This is my personal hobby, approved by my employer, and I don't want the stress of managing a chaotic tank or dealing with dead fish because someone thought a betta and a guppy could live together. Now the office seems split. Some people are on my side, understanding that it's my personal tank, while others think I'm being selfish for not letting them turn it into a communal thing. They keep saying I'm not being a good team player. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my coworkers turn my personal, employer-approved fish tank into their office-wide project? Edit. My fish, my tank, my own money, my rules. I will take the fish tank home as suggested by almost everyone. Not the jerk. It's your tank, and you've put in the work to keep it balanced and healthy. Turning it into a communal project would just create chaos, especially since they don't understand the care that's involved. My fiance is angry that I bought my own daughter 5 pairs of running shoes. My fiance has 3 kids with her ex, while I only have 1 kid with my ex, my daughter who's 14. My daughter is a state qualifying cross-country and track runner. This means that her training schedule is rather intense, with her weekly mileage reaching into the high 70s and low 80s. At her most recent sports physical, I asked her doctor how often I should be replacing her running shoes because I'm sure they get worn out very quickly with the amount of miles that she runs each week. Her doctor recommended switching the shoes out every 6 months, as well as getting 2 pairs of shoes so we can switch out the pair she's wearing every other day or so. However, her shoes may need to get replaced earlier depending on how intense her weeks get. After the appointment, I took my daughter out to a few athletic stores so she could pick out a few pairs of shoes. I told her to pick out 4 pairs of running shoes, 2 for track season and 2 for cross country. Then I told her to pick out a pair of spikes for her races. I spent over $300 for her shoes. When we came home, my fiance saw the bags my daughter was holding, and my daughter excitedly told her about the new shoes she had gotten. My fiance stayed quiet until later that night while we were getting ready for bed, and she started yelling at me for being irresponsible and a horrible person to her own kids. She said that she was very mad because I should also get her kids shoes if I'm spending over $300 for my daughter. I mentioned that we agreed we would each provide for our own kids on our own, and her kids don't play any sports. They all sit in their rooms all day on their electronics. Even when I try to buy them something, they never say thank you or appreciate what I get them. She got even angrier, and now she hasn't talked to me still. It's been 2 weeks. How do I handle her anger towards me for not getting her kids shoes when I got my daughter's shoes? Gee, I got an idea for you. How about you break up with her, dude? Running shoes for track are not a gift. They're school supplies. If she played hockey, would the fiance yell at you about the pads and gear? I'm just blown away that he got 4 pairs of running shoes for only $300. Am I the jerk for not preparing my pregnant wife food? My wife is 5 months pregnant and has started to feel hungry a lot. She's recovering from throwing up constantly, and now it's just once or twice a week. We both work from home. I try to do the majority of household chores: cooking, dishes, laundry, cleaning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, etc. Though it's a small apartment and no kids, so it's not really much work. And we typically just have milk and bread for breakfast, which I bring to her in bed. She helps with cooking whenever she's feeling good, and very lately she started to cook more than me. Otherwise, I cook the dinner with often some assistance from her, cutting onions, etc. We save the dinner for lunch next day. It goes well most of the time. The problem is that my wife keeps complaining to me that she's hungry and I haven't fed her. I do offer snacks like bananas, fruits, and nuts, but she says she's looking for some real food because she's really hungry. When I ask her, "What do you want me to make?" she often doesn't have an answer and tells me she doesn't know, but she's hungry. If I offer to make something, say soup or boiled potatoes, she shoots it down for one reason or the other. It's carbs and not good. It's too light and she's too hungry, etc. This gets me visibly frustrated. Today, she agreed to a serving of watermelon, which I cut and served. While cutting it, I asked her to tell me what she wants to eat because she will start complaining in a while that she's hungry and I can't immediately have something ready to eat because it takes preparation. She said she's good for a while and didn't entertain my question. As predicted, when I visited her room in an hour or so after work, she started pouting that she's hungry and I didn't feed her anything since lunch throughout the day. This made me a bit angry because I did feed her the melon and some dry snacks. It just wasn't a proper food. Moreover, I had asked her what she wanted to eat for this very reason, and she had refused to answer then. I told her she's expecting too much from me, both figuring out what to make and to make it. I asked her to at least take responsibility for figuring out what she wants to eat and letting me know in advance. She felt like I was invalidating her and then said, "Okay, won't tell you anything from now on," pouting. I got annoyed and I left the room. Am I the jerk? Make freezer meals or your own frozen meals. OP. Oh, she refuses to eat anything remotely unhealthy. That includes takeout, let alone frozen meals. So unfortunately, frozen cooked food is a no-go. Thanks for suggestions though. Everyone sucks here because it sounds like neither of you is eating real food. OP. Dinner with rice plus veggies and lentils or meat. Same thing for lunch the next day. Fruits and dry fruits. Milk and bread or cereal for breakfast, and sometimes eggs. Is this not good? We both have pretty small appetites. Well, at least it used to be. I'm glad to have made the post. It was an outlet for my frustrations, which helped me become calm again. I also learned that our diet is likely inadequate, so having a conversation with wife regarding that. I get to learn some different perspectives, also a good thing. I now got motivation to make some meals unasked and see how it goes. All in all, making this post was useful. I agree it's not a big conflict that often gets posted here, but it's still a conflict where I'm unsure if I'm doing anything wrong. Nevertheless, glad to have posted. Update. First things first, I feel I may have unintentionally cast my wife in a somewhat unfair light. She's far from being lazy, pampered, or a princess of some sort. She's on her feet a lot, grabbing her own snacks, sipping water, and even tossing together some rice for our lunch now and then. She's really quite the team player around the house, always ready to lend a hand when she's feeling good. I often find myself encouraging her to kick back and rest. The real pickle here wasn't about her helping out or not, but about her leaning on me to sort out all of her meals. Reading your comments, I had a bit of an aha moment. She genuinely didn't know what she felt like eating. And to be totally transparent, this food decision deadlock isn't a new game for us. Pre-pregnancy, we'd often volley the, "No, you decide," ball until one of us gave in. Now that we've got a baby on the way, I've realized it would be quite irresponsible for both of us to let her go hungry because she can't decide. While technically her responsibility to decide, I've taken it upon myself the following advice here. Overall, I think this is making her feel that I care about her diet and her, and our relationship has improved. I also feel pretty good about our diet now. In a nutshell, we're making progress, she seems more at ease with our meal situation, and I'm feeling pretty good about getting our nutrition on track. I really don't get this post. I understand that their nutrition is lacking and she needs to eat better for the baby, but the post reads as if he's providing meals for a kid who can't make these decisions on their own. She's a grown woman who can make her own nutritional decisions, then execute them. Why can she not make her own meals? Why is she lying in bed and whining about OP not feeding her and expecting him to know what she feels like eating? Why is this his responsibility to read her mind and ensure she's fed? I really can't fathom why OP's wife is blaming him for this. And for her to say that he's invalidating her? How? By asking her to use words and tell him what she wants to eat? Her response of, "Fine, I won't tell you anything anymore," was incredibly immature. He was asking an adult to decide for themselves what they want to eat, and that's her response? Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.